intellectual, a moral exhaustion. I'm exhausted. I can't, I'm drained. Because no matter how hard I try, I'm never attaining any sense of satisfaction or accomplishment. And if I do attain some satisfaction, and if I do attain some accomplishment, then it sets me aside from the herd. Right? And that's a problem. So then I have to immediately defer, because the rule says, dogmatically, that I have to defer those accomplishments and those accolades and those credits back to the Godhead, to the divine. And thus, I just literally become a cog. He said somewhere earlier, and I said it in the last section, I forget where it was, that you become a tool, right? Nietzsche says that you become a tool. Just Control F, tool, and you'll find it. It's in my notes somewhere. But Nietzsche says, you know, you become a tool. There is no function that you serve other than just becoming a cog in the machine. And you know, it's tragic. I think it's tragic. Okay, so I think that's clear. All right, the next page, which is page 48, the three powers hidden behind the will to power. So three powers hidden behind the will to power. And this is note 274. Similarly with note 215, so this is sort of a conjunction of note 215 and 274, there is an antithetical will to power within the Christian moral tradition, right? So we have a will to power, which we've been fleshing out sort of continuously, and if I ever do get to the end of this lecture series, I'm going to spend probably 30 minutes just talking about each instance of will to power and really flesh out systematically what it means, but we can't do that until the very end. There is an antithetical will to power within the Christian moral tradition, right? So what is this antithetical will to power? One, the instinct of the herd against the strong and independent, right? So you have the herd versus the strong right? You have the herd versus the strong and independent, right? So if an individual has a particular will to power, and that will to power, for me, is actualized in those endeavors where I am cognitively and physiologically at my optimum, which for me is in the role of either teaching or sort of analysis, assessment of data. Those are the two things that I do best. Those are the two areas where I function at my optimum. That ability, or those abilities, make me strong and independent. I use those abilities to be able to, I'm doing a bit of ghetto philosophy here, right? I use those abilities to be independent, right? To pay for my own bills, to take care of my family. Those skills give me the conditions in which I can survive, and I don't have to depend on others. They also make me strong, right? Not in a physical sense of strength, but the practice has habituated my thought over time, just like a painter who's been painting portraits for many, many, many years, several hundreds of portraits or thousands of portraits. The artisan skill is fine-tuned by the systematic and redundant practice of painting, right? That is in opposition to a herd mentality, right? And the herd mentality is, it's not even just day-to-day survival. It's actually more, it's more pathetic than that. It is a state of existence, to be technical, right? The herd, as a collective, is a state of existence in which my concerns are almost always preoccupied with the thoughts, the considerations of others. Everything that I do day to day is, oh, let me go see if, like, so for example, I mean, it's hard for me even to think like this because I don't have this type of mind. But the herd mentality, the herd mind is, oh, well, you know, no, Dr. Campbell, I see him over there, he's doing that. Let me go over here and test Dr. Campbell just for fun. Let's see if we can, you know, let's see if we can get him caught up in, you know, some fallacy. Let's go entertain ourselves by you know, harassing this is the troll, right? Harassing this person, or, oh, I wonder what he thinks about me. I wonder what she thinks about me. Should I have said that? Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Do you think they'll like my shoes? You think they'll like my haircut? You think they'll like my clothes? You think they'll like my fancy car? Right? The herd. You're concerned. And all that you're concerned with from the time that you wake up to the time that you go to bed is with either testing others or how you are perceived by others. Everything, your waking thought is about other people. It's about other people. That's all you think about, right? And this is the basis for, this is not the basis, but one of the foundational, I don't want to get too far off topic, but one of the foundational things that inspired me to do the piece, the technomorality of the underclass, was a recognition, well, there's many things in there and I can't get into it, but one of the main things was a recognition between rationalists and charlatans, right? The recognition that there are people out there whose sole purpose, there's a lot of people, the herd's sole purpose, right, is to purvey misinformation. They're not going to take the time to justify and legitimize their information. They're not going to take the time to try and humble themselves so that they can learn and get better. Well, all they want to do is they want to have fun, test people, play games. But the point is, when you're dealing with a master, when you're dealing with someone that this is all that they do, that they're consumed by this, there's no throwing the strong, independent person off their game. You can never do it. So your acts are futile. You're wasting your time, right? Because an individual who is set aside from, stands outside of the herd mentality, isn't affected with the way that you perceive him or her, right? So that will to power, in its true sense, right? That will to power, that ability to strive for personal excellence and not allow my will to be subordinated by an institution of moral valuation is an extremely powerful recognition, if you can get to that level, right? Number two, the instinct of suffering and underprivileged against the fortunate, right? Suffering and underprivileged. Underprivileged, P-R-I-V-I-L-E-G-E-D. Suffering and underprivileged against the fortunate. Right? They create a discourse, a polemic, a tension between those who are underprivileged and suffering and those who are fortunate. And what ends up happening in this discourse is that the fortunate are given forcefully the duty, the obligation, right, to care for the underprivileged and the suffering. Right? It's not that because I've worked hard as a business person for all my life and amassed an insane wealth, an insane fortune, of my own volition, want to give back to the community that helped me become the person that I am. And therefore, I cut a check, I build a basketball court, I do whatever it is, I help back philanthropically to elevate the concerns of the community because of my own volition. It is the assumption that because you have made it to that level, you are required to give back. On whose merit am I required to give back? Right? It's what I'm doing right now isn't for every academic. I would not encourage every person who has a PhD to get up here and do what it is that I'm doing. Because if you do this and you don't have the passion for it, then you're going to communicate a passionless lecture. If you get up here and you have the passion for it like I do, there's nothing but passion that I can communicate, and it's because this is what I do. So the point is, with respect to suffering and underprivileged, yeah, it's like we want to see the community develop, but there is no sense in which, right, and this is the antithetical account to this will to power, that the herd can make such demands simply because an individual has reached an arbitrary sort of threshold at which they've attained X number of dollars. In the attainment of that, now you owe us money, pay us money, right? No, that does not work, right? That does not work. This becomes tyrannical. The individual of his or her own volition has to recognize, if they recognize, listen, it was the community that helped bring me to this point, and now I'm going to give back because I took so much. Fine, right? But to make the mandate is just, it's out of line. It's out of line. All right. Number three, the instinct of the mediocre against the exceptional. This is my favorite, right? The mediocre